We were starting a new company at that time. MSD was just about getting off the ground in India. And we had an opportunity to build a very different company and a different way of going to the market. So we thought Januvia would be one of the best opportunities that one can have to transform the Indian pharmaceutical market to how to look at what we can do for patients and stakeholders. So I think the homework was more important than the outcome. When we said in fifth or sixth year, we should reach $100 million. And literally, we were asked, what are you smoking? Why acute episodic treatment happens? Why chronic treatment doesn't happen in the country? What do doctors struggle with? Why HbA1c control in this country is roughly around 7.5 to 8 by doctors. It was a novelty to do psychoanalytical marketing research of patients and segmenting them. We did not have even one large launch meeting like people have. The Tamasha launch meeting. None of those.
Okay.
Small CMEs of a group of 5 to 7 doctors. First time country was observing something that how can a patient-centricity story become center stage for a product launch. So the mindset changed completely. And they realized that the cause is bigger, that we are now dealing with patients. I'll tell you one more interesting statistic. The sampling that we did for launch was zero.
And I think you said $1 million thing,
Yes,
and you had it.
Yeah, internal battles are generally sometimes higher and difficult, but I think we overcome that.
Is it patient centricity is a luxury that big brands can afford, but not for the smaller ones?
And that thinking is not subject to what is the size of the brand. That is about attitude. That is about skills to understand marketing. That is about skills to understand positioning, understanding what value we can create for patients. And that's something that we have to train people continuously. You will find medical reps in our country who have serious patient centricity attitude. So, Gauri, there are diseases in this country which need serious attention, and we don't pay enough attention to them. Don't try to sell something for business. Have the right cause behind you. Think about what is needed for the country. Think about how can we solve the problems of the country. Everybody will join you.
And yet sometimes business objectives are not fulfilled and people just give up on such initiatives, moving back to, target hua ke nahi, kitna hua.
I have delivered as a CEO, now this is probably my 17th year. I have always delivered. Where has it stopped me from delivering my results? Purpose has not stopped me from delivering results that are required. Today, Indian women get better treatment than American women. Don't solve problems which can be solved by anybody. Solve problems that nobody can solve, or very difficult to solve, or less people want to solve for. I think the share of voice model was important when less drugs were available, smaller number of companies were involved, and therefore there was a need to say that, oh, we have launched this also, we have launched this also, this is a drug available, there are treat more patients and all. There was a time for that, and we all did a great job of doing it, and we need to do that. And that is where I think companies are failing, because they are still not wanting to. They want to run bullock carts on expressways, which is not going to happen anymore.
Hi, welcome to yet another episode of Complexity to Clarity, Pharma, Healthcare and more with me, Gauri Chaudhari. In this podcast, we've explored the fascinating journey behind India's most iconic pharma brands. We dive into strategies, vision, determination that have shaped their success stories. And today, I'm honored to have with us none other than Mr. Sanjiv Navangul, a visionary leader who has been at the forefront of shaping some of the India's most iconic brands. He's the MD and CEO of Bharat Serum and Vaccines Limited. He has also held senior leadership positions at renowned pharma companies, including Janssen, MSD, and he has been responsible for introducing several life-changing treatments in India, be it diabetes, tuberculosis, or even schizophrenia. And now at Bharat Serum and Vaccines, he's doing some phenomenal work in the area of women's health. Thank you, Sanjiv. Thanks a lot for being part of this podcast and really eager to listening to the stories and journeys of all those iconic brands that under your leadership were built.
I just thank you, Gauri, for calling me on your prestigious podcast. I'm feeling very honored to be here.
Thank you so much. So, Sanjiv, it's impossible to talk about Indian pharma industry's iconic brands and not mention Januvia. That brand has really played a very big role, not only the patients, HCPs, but at the same time, public at large got benefited. And very beautifully, also the company achieved its goals. I mean, I remember in the very first year of Januvia, the brand did exceedingly well. So, what are those factors and how it all happened together?
Yes, so Gauri, I think very interesting times. We were starting a new company at that time. MSD was just about getting off the ground in India. And we had an opportunity to build a very different company and a different way of going to the market. So we thought Januvia would be one of the best opportunities that one can have to transform the Indian pharmaceutical market to how to look at what we can do for patients and stakeholders. So I think the homework was more important than the outcome.
Uh-huh.
The homework was deep, and for 9 months, we toiled hard for how to think about the brand and what to do. So, first of all, we decided that uh, everything about it should be different than what happens in the market. Let's not even have one thing which is normalized in the Indian market. And I can go through a lot of details, but let me give you a few examples of what made this brand. First of all, we created a large stakeholder map.
Mhm.
Our stakeholder map was not doctors.
Mhm.
Normally, what you do is doctors, positioning, promotion is what we do in a brand. But here we said nothing doing. This is the first patented product to be launched in India after 2005 regime started.
Yes.
So our stakeholders become the government,
Mhm.
become the social sector, becomes the patients, becomes the doctors, become patient communities. Everything becomes our, stakeholder. Everybody becomes a stakeholder, including having a meeting with the then Prime Minister to say that we are launching a patented product in India, and we all need to be responsible in order to ensure that patents get protected in this country now that we have entered this regime. So we literally went all around and made very different kind of stakeholders. Market research. Normally, market research, what we do is positioning and pricing. This is the two things that we do, and that we do it with doctors.
Yeah.
Our market research went a step ahead.
Mhm.
Normal people, caregivers, patients, doctors, government officials, wherever we could go to, we tried to do a full range market research and really went across to find out what is the perception of if you bring in such a product into the country, what all people's expectations are. The third big battle that we fought was within the company on pricing. I think when we revealed our pricing studies to the global team, uh, we told them, don't look at the price alone, look at the price volume and the amount of, let's say, the expectation of business that we can have through this. And we explained to them that our volumes will be amongst the largest in the world for the plant. So plant capacity is getting them to scale, ensuring cost of manufacturing for the entire world for Merck can change because of this. So these are volumes that we are talking about. The second thing we told them is that, look, the biggest brand in the country was $37 million at that time. And we said in fifth or sixth year, we should reach $100 million.
Mhm.
And literally, we were asked, what are you smoking? And we said, but we told them, you show us a calculation error or a thinking error, and we are happy to withdraw our discussion. I think the global team could find nothing.
Right.
Went right until the chairman of the company
Mhm.
for approval. And we got our necessary approvals. We got full backing from the global team. Let's do it, kind. Locally, we realized that we went deeper into how treatment paradigm is on diabetes.
Mhm.
Why acute episodic treatment happens? Why chronic treatment doesn't happen in the country?
Mhm.
What do doctors struggle with?
Mm-hmm.
Why H1, HbA1c control in this country is roughly around 7.5 to 8 by doctors. Where is this fear of hypoglycemia coming through?
Mm-hmm.
What is the safety thinking of the doctors around drugs?
Mm-hmm.
And we went through all that and we realized that we have one of the greatest discoveries in diabetes that can get into the market and therefore position it properly. And we literally positioned it on two things. One was really that very easy on the system and patients can tolerate it very well.
Mm-hmm.
Second was fear of hypoglycemia is gone because this drug cannot cause hypoglycemia. So it hit the right notes in the market. It also created a feeling that people started comparing the safety and the efficacy with sulfonylureas and said, oh, why should I use a sulfonylurea when I can use a better drug? So the positioning of the drug became very clear in the doctor's mind very early.
Mm-hmm.
The safety profile was very strong.
Mm-hmm.
The hypoglycemia fear gone and the ability to treat patients went up. But we told doctors that this is not enough. Ultimately, patients are patients. So we did, in those times it was a novelty to do psychoanalytical marketing research of patients and segmenting them.
Okay.
We segmented patients
Mm-hmm.
of by attitudinal segmentation we did of patients.
Mm-hmm.
And we started a very strong call center in Hyderabad
Yes.
with 50 odd people who were minimum masters in nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So this was not a call center of normal people. This was of highly educated experts.
Right.
They were trained in everything. We tied up with diagnostic agencies.
Mm-hmm.
We tied up with doctors. And when we started a program called Sparsh for patients, which was free, and doctors could prescribe both the drug and the program.
Absolutely.
And if they prescribed the program, patients could join the program with a one missed call.
Mm-hmm.
And then longitudinally they started getting tracked because doctors knew these are my 50 patients on the drug and this is how they are progressing. And these are their test results, regular test results. So it became chronic. It became very intuitive for doctors to treat. And
Right.
then we did a lot of studies on controls and patients not in the control group. And then we saw a lot of parameters getting better, HbA1c, cholesterol, hypertension, everything improving, exercise, diet control. They got great diet advice from our call center.
Mm-hmm.
I remember 8 languages and about 150 diet charts we had created.
Mm-hmm.
So look, when you wanted to do something special, you have to change the mindset. Our teams were trained completely differently. We did not have even one large launch meeting like people have, the
Okay.
Tamasha launch meeting. None
Okay.
of those. It
Okay.
was small CMEs of a group of 5 to 7 doctors. And we had about 20 to 30 doctors in the company who used to go all around the country and talk about what needs to be done for patients.
Right.
First time country was observing something that how can a patient centricity story become center stage for a product launch?
Absolutely.
And it gave the market something very different because the MSL that people talk about now was first launched by our company at that time.
Uh-huh.
We were the first company to appoint a compliance manager at that time. So we changed everything for the launch. That as a company, nothing that has happened in the past should correlate to this launch. And a
Right.
very strong, trained, committed team who, for them, product was religion.
Mm-hmm.
They're consumed by it.
Right.
And each one was competing with each other to say that I am, treating more patients than you. So they were never given goals of how many prescriptions are you generating. They were
Right.
told that tell us how many patients are getting treated because of you. And tell us patient stories, how patients are feeling.
Okay.
So the mindset changed completely. And they realized that the cause is bigger, that we are now dealing with patients. We are not dealing with anybody else. And
Yes.
doctors then became friends because doctors were on their side. They were not, prescribing something what the promotion was happening.
Right.
And promotion was purely centered on doing the right thing. I'll tell you one more interesting statistic.
Mm-hmm.
The sampling that we did for launch
Mm-hmm.
was zero.
Oh, okay.
There was no sampling of the product.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of thinking and mindset people had. We value the drug, we value what we are launching in the market, we value what is happening to patients, and therefore we will not undervalue it by anything that we do.
Right. And also the confidence you had in your brand, because when you decide not to sample and when you're giving so much of information and so much of confidence, that's another level of marketing, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the medical community responded very strongly by saying that they also owned it up, saying that something good is happening for patients. We are able to change treatment paradigms. So let us work together to do something better for patients. So, we must thank the medical community for behaving very differently when we started talking about these concepts. Very
Right.
differently.
Right. And I think you said $1 million thing, which is that doctors became friend. Because eventually what pharma industry and doctors together are doing are treating that patient who needs help. And when both
Exactly.
these forces come together and ultimate patient is taken care of, there is no other way but doctors becoming part of the journey as your partner, as your friend, as your person along. So that's something very interesting. And also, Sanjiv, I'm I really feel impressed. There are so many firsts that you did. Not only this was the first drug in its class, but having the entire marketing strategy around patients and requirements of patients, needs of patient, creating this pool of nutritionists giving advice. So everything probably you did on this brand was very differentiated, and it was so different that there is no other way but the brands to get benefited. So, and also
And
sorry, go ahead, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
No, no.
So I just wanted to say that, the funny thing was in the end, after 2 years, IMS at that time, as it was called, IQO was called, wrote a global paper on the best ever launch in emerging markets and
Mhm.
wrote about the Januvia India story.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So it was unbelievable success story at that time.
Yeah. But what also impresses me is your conviction that let me launch this brand. I think you launched it at one-fifth of the global price, if I'm not
Yes,
wrong. And
yes, yes.
yeah, and having that confidence and kind of sticking your neck out and saying that, look, I will launch it at this, but the price volume will deliver. I think
Yeah,
that requires tremendous conviction. And
yes.
you had it.
Yeah, internal battles are generally sometimes higher and difficult, but I think we overcome that. We got a lot of support from the global organization, a lot of freedom and support.
Uh-huh.
I think it paid off in the end. I think whatever we said as we will do, we ended up doing those also. So the credibility of India subsidiary went up dramatically because of that. That they what they say they do. So it gave a special status for India. And also the programs. I think the whole Sparsh program became the iconic program of Merck and globally recognized within the company that, look, India builds very interesting programs.
Right, right. And the entire concept that of pill plus, it's not that we are here to sell pills, it's but we are interested in overall well-being of a patient. And diabetes story is incomplete without exercise and diet, and of course now stress as third pillar, but it's incomplete. And giving this holistic approach is something I guess you envisaged very well and executed fantastically well.
It went very well. I think, God bless, we had a great committed team and the team delivered. So,
Absolutely. So, Sanjay, this brings me to the next question. And often I talk to younger marketing managers and the salespeople whose brands are not big. They are not big enough to support a spurge kind of health line and or do anything else. How would they navigate? Is it patient centricity is a luxury that big brands can afford, but not for the smaller ones?
I think there are two parts to it. What you say is also true, but let's look at it from both the sides. Number one side, which you say, is that is it a luxury for big brands? Probably yes, in a way that they are able to afford more expenses and they are able to afford to do a lot more things. That is even granted that. But I don't completely buy the point that this is only for big brands.
Mhm.
The reason being, ultimately, it's the mindset shift of what are you doing with patients.
Right,
Small things matter.
right.
Yeah, small things matter. For example, I remember we had launched at the same time like Januvia, we had launched another drug called Cancidus, I think, Casprofunction, the first antifungal in its type, injectable antifungal in its type. It was never going to be a Januvia.
Hmm.
Yeah. It had limited use in the ICU. But what did we do? Fungal detection in this country was low.
Mhm.
I still remember there was one doctor, Arun Loka Chakravarti in Chandigarh, who was the only one who was an expert in understanding diagnostics of fungal infection. We
Mhm.
took him along and we created a battery of people who understood how to detect fungal infection in the country with that.
Mhm.
Hmm? We ensured that the patient subclassification in the ICUs became simpler for doctors to understand in every ICU.
Hmm.
Doing simple things as boards there to explain how to suspect a fungal infection of what kind. Now, that was not some enormous thing that we were doing for a big brand, small
Right.
brand, but changing patterns of treatment and ensuring patients get saved could be done with any brand. If you have the right product, I think we should think about it in a small way, in our own way. What can we do that will help medical community and patients to service the patients better? And that thinking is not subject to what is the size of the brand. That is about attitude. That is about skills to understand marketing. That is about skills to understand positioning, understanding what value we can create for patients. And that's something that we have to train people continuously.
Absolutely.
So let's not really get carried away by the fact that centricity is something that means that we have to do 10 activities to prove that we are patient centric. It's about our own attitude, our own behavior, our own way of small way of contributing to something. You see, you will find medical reps in our country who have serious patient centricity attitude.
Absolutely.
They will tell the patient or they will tell some doctor that give them my number. If they need any help, just let them call me and
Right.
they'll run after it. So simple things. So patient centricity is also equally about attitude and way to deliver value to patients. It's not just about trying to create more, let's say, um, uh, uh, issues in the sense that you do more things that will people will be attracted to looking at. It's not just that.
Right. Very well put. I mean, what you rightly said, it's the attitude, mindset that changes. And like you said in Genovia, you did extensive market research to understanding patients and caregivers. Those kind of things really sets one apart because what you do is an extension of what you find out as a problem amongst patients and the entire ecosystem and the doctors. Like you beautifully said that in India, diabetes was treated, or maybe even today at times is treated as an acute problem and not a chronic disorder. That insight can't come without empathetically you try and understand where doctors are coming from and patients are coming from. Like in my book I wrote about the antifungal part, and there
Correct.
was one medical representative who figured out that doctors in North India cannot treat a woman's fungal infection because she's not open to show her fungal infection, which at times happens
Correct.
under the clothes.
Yeah.
And he just suggested his marketing team, why don't you create a chart of various skin infections, and then the lady actually has to just point out and say it looks like this, which is, in northern India, there are not that time probably when it happened, not many women doctors to
Very
treat.
nice.
So
Very
this
nice.
small act doesn't require big money, but all it requires probably is that, as you rightly said, attitude and mindset to find out what are the problems. So I think tremendous learning for everyone out there who will be listening to this podcast. So, Sanjiv, if I go to the next point, which is also the tuberculosis market, and you played very, very great role there. Even today, tuberculosis is a big problem, and we know that there are around 28 lakh patients right now suffering from tuberculosis. There is multi-drug resistance problem, and you did some of the iconic work there. So, how was that experience, and how did it work together?
So, Gauri, there are diseases in this country which need serious attention, and we don't pay enough attention to them. For example, today's newspaper is carrying that in Mumbai there was a survey done by government on trying to detect TB patients, and they found 24,000 new patients. Hmm?
Uh-huh.
So now this just shows. that how rampant is this disease in certain pockets of the country. Problem is not just tuberculosis. Problem is also with MDR TB.
Hmm.
And one MDR TB patient, if has public exposure, can create 10 more MDR TB patients in a year. So the exponentiality of this disease spreading is very high. And
Right.
India needs to control it. It's a public health issue and we need to control it. We didn't have earlier enough medicines. We had toxic medicines, like the, streptomycin and all, which we used to call vancomycin, we used to call, oh, no, not vancomycin, streptomycin, and then I think another. So these used to cause hearing loss. And
Mhm.
also there were other toxicity associated with drugs
Mhm.
for MDR TB. But when bedaquiline got discovered by, I think it was Paul Janssen's dream in those times to discover something like this, because one of his close ones had passed away on TB. So he had dedicated a team saying that my one team will continuously work on TB. So, and then this drug came about and fantastic safety profile, great results, a boon for patients. We went to the government and started working with the government and said, change the policy,
Mhm.
change the way RNTCP works.
Mhm.
Let us rehaul everything. Let us give India a mission of eradicating TB.
Uh-huh.
And let's make big statements because the world is worried about India, China, parts of South Africa, and Russia as the main worries on TB. So
Mhm.
let India be the bold statement maker and saying that we will do everything for. And by the time South Africa had started to do a lot of things.
Mhm.
So we said that we need to race ahead of South Africa. So let's do something. The system started moving, saying that this is something to take to, including they could get the prime minister to say that we will eradicate TB by 2025. I remember publicly the prime minister saying it. So everybody was moved by the fact that we need to eradicate TB in India. And then what we did was that, look, forget about the cost right now. Let's do all the right things that are required.
Mhm.
WHO had approved, phase 2 was done, phase 2B was done. Based on that, WHO had told countries to approve. The government authorities were very kind at that time. They realized the value of this drug and they said, we will approve the drug
Mhm.
based on the data that is there globally because lots of patients are dying every day. So it was a great, I think, contribution by the government itself along with us. So when we say that things happen also if you position it rightfully. Expert committee was set. In fact, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan was the head of the expert committee to look at how the trials should be conducted in the country. We took up 6 hospitals. The drug was given free to all the patients, and we monitored those patients for about a year. So we saw great results. Then we started including it in formulary and saying that this is how treatment patterns should change. The government policy changed around that. We realized patients die because of, not because of TB, but because of the drugs being so difficult. Patients die because they don't have enough nutrition. So
Uh-huh.
there is this portion program that started in the country, 500 rupees per patient.
Mhm.
And we got NGOs to adopt patients. And NGOs gave free ration to every patient every month.
Okay.
I myself adopted a number of patients. My
Uh-huh.
team adopted a number of patients through personal money that we will adopt this patient, give them nutrition every month.
Mhm.
So it became a big movement and everybody got energized to solve this problem. So I think it is bearing a lot of results. It is now really doing well. I must also say that the global organization of J&J was very good at that time. They really gave so much drug free to this country to start off.
Mhm.
Great contribution, great price, a lot of free supplies to ensure that everybody gets enough confidence in. So you have to create a movement. See, my problem is that what we forget is that we have to get everybody energized in the process. Everybody is a stakeholder. Don't think about you being alone in this battle. Don't try to sell something for business.
Right.
Have the right cause behind you. Think about what is needed for the country. Think about how can we solve the problems of the country. Everybody will join you.
Right.
And today, even today, a lot of those officials and people who were, they're still in touch with me
Mhm.
because they feel they all were part of something completely, different from what used to happen in this country. So they are still, they like, they have so much affinity for each other still.
Right.
Yeah, patient groups. I still get messages from my patient groups.
Uh-huh.
Recently, I got from one big patient activist, I got a message. She was very happy that my daughter is in healthcare. So she wrote to me,
Okay.
oh, I learned that your daughter is in healthcare. So that kind of relationship got developed. So look, you can get everybody together.
Right.
Somebody needs to take charge and get everybody together. That's all. And TV was a great example. And I think, forget about a date or something, maybe in another 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, we might be able to control TV in this country in a good way. So that itself, can you imagine how much satisfaction any person would have? I can take that one thing and say, okay, I've done enough in my life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what is very inspiring is that there was a purpose, and probably you could inspire people and gather them around the purpose. And this purpose itself is so good. I mean, that's also a quality of leadership. That how do you actually, get people excited about the work they are doing? And we are in this industry where the purpose is so much larger. It's just that someone
Correct.
has to galvanize the whole thing.
Correct. Correct.
Phenomenal work, Sanjiv. I
Right.
mean, kudos to you for getting this.
So, yeah, I as always say, I'm Nimitta Matra. There is a whole team that works around all this. And there are a lot of people who commit to work like this and do it. So somebody has to be the reason. That's all.
Absolutely. Yet, I mean, another question, which is like sometimes when there is a purpose, there are people running around it, but the business objectives are also there. So, social impact happens, and yet sometimes business objectives are not fulfilled, and people just give up on such initiatives, moving back to, target hua ke nahi, kitna hua. How does one navigate through a whole of this? Is there a way, or you have to
So
just
Gauri,
wait and watch?
Gauri, I think this is a very important question. Never forget that you're ultimately in business and don't be ashamed of it.
Right.
Yeah. Healthcare is not business, but ultimately you're in business. Yeah. Healthcare is something to commit to. There are shareholders, there are stakeholders. Doing the right thing at the right time have always brought very good results in terms of, I think, in terms of P&Ls. I think P&Ls have worked well if your cause is right and you work hard for it. I have not seen causes going wrong most of the times because effort is rewarded in our country at least. In
Mhm.
India, you always find effort reward ratio is high.
Mhm.
So people when they make their effort, they get it.
Mhm.
And not moving from the cause is important. So, but have focus. Don't be shy of monitoring things, looking at your P&L, looking at how things are progressing, and give targets to people in such a way that people understand it in a simpler way. That, if people feel that they have a target of how many patients have got treated with our drug
Mhm.
and how many patients are feeling better because of that, if those kind of tracking systems you have, numbers will keep going up only. So you need to also devise something by which people feel that they're contributing to society, but also you are monitoring and measuring something which can result in an outcome. Don't get too consumed by outcome as much as get consumed by what is your cause and what are you trying to do. And results are followed. As there's this famous George Merck saying, which says that don't never forget that medicine is for people. And if you don't forget that, profits always follow.
Right.
And I think he said it in 1950 when pharmaceutical industry was still golden and he could appear on Time front page. No? So it still didn't have the stink around it as we see it today because of whatever reason. But I think those were nicer days. But understanding that this works is important. I have delivered as a CEO. Now this is probably my 17th year. I've always delivered. Where
Mhm.
has it stopped me from delivering my results?
Mhm.
Purpose has not stopped me from delivering results that are required. And understand that we need that results because we want to plow that money back into doing something good for patients in one way or the other. So we also need that result.
Absolutely. Because if
It's an
because
engine for us.
right. Right, right. So rightly said. I mean, at one point, because there's no money, if you fall off the track and forget your cause, then it's not going to be helpful to anyone. So, not
Absolutely.
being ashamed of your business objectives, in the end, you're answerable to your investors equally, and of course, every other stakeholders. So, I think But I take very, very important point from what you said is that you follow your cause and profits will come through as long as your cause is intact and don't deviate from that. I think there is a big lesson there. So, Sanjay, there's another next very, very important segment, and I know you're doing phenomenal work there, is the women's health. I think at Bharat Serum and Vaccines, you're doing real good work. What are the basic challenges in India when it comes to women's health? And I'm sure we are not, when we talk India, there are 14 different Indias within India and maybe even more than that. But if we just need to generalize it a little more, or what is that most bothering issue that is stopping women's health interventions?
Let me give you a very important statistic that one out of every two men
Mm-hmm.
get some kind of treatment in this country.
Mm-hmm.
One out of every five women get treatment in this country.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
The gender disparity in medical treatment is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand that, then you realize that why there is a need for having a women's health company in India. There is no such company.
Right.
And therefore, there is a need to create a women's health company which focuses on women's health
Mm-hmm.
and drives that agenda in a very strong way to ensure that we drive more women to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
We drive more women to do detection. We drive more women to take care of their own health.
Mm-hmm.
Drive women to speak up, to say
Right.
that I need help. And if that is the case, then you need to start somewhere. So the concept beyond building a women's health company is this fact that we need to do something right in this country to get the balance right, to give women its due that they also need equal healthcare as much as men do.
Right.
And let not decisions be based on social disparity, gender disparity, earning member family disparity. These things should not cause treatment gaps. So
Absolutely.
that's the primary objective. And I'll give you an example of how we are trying to do a few things and we are trying to see what we can do in our own small way. Uh, I think the cause of RH negative women is something that we have taken up very strongly.
Right.
See, in India, about 8% women, roughly 5 to 8%, but let's take the upper limit for the time being. 8% women are RH negative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people actually know that they are RH negative
Right.
because blood typing also is a problem.
Right.
Hmm. So now that is one problem. Second problem is because they don't know, deliveries become complicated. And suppose they deliver a RH negative child, there are other complications involved if they don't have the immunoglobulin.
Hmm.
So first of all, research went through. There is globally what they know what is being treated is through human cell. You use hyperimmune blood of a male and use that to create the immunoglobulin for giving for RH negative. But we went ahead and did so much research and developed in a way the first biologic that can be created for monoclonal and recombinant both
Mm-hmm.
for RH negative immunoglobulin. This is the first in the world.
Okay.
Today, Indian women get better treatment than American women.
Uh-huh.
So, I tell me another disease where US women or a European woman gets more lesser treatment than Indian women. And
Absolutely.
this is the first biologic from India, original biologic from India.
Mm-hmm.
This has WHO INN non-proprietary name,
Uh-huh.
the first one from India.
Uh-huh.
This also has one Pre-Gallian Award, which
Okay.
is considered to be, Nobel Prize in medicine. For India, it won and it got competed at the global level with
Uh-huh.
the big pharma. So imagine doing good research lands you there. Now, how to get it to people?
Hmm.
If you see most of our businesses with state governments, we are working very closely with state governments.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of work we do. Most of our field force is going to district hospitals, Zilla Parishad hospitals, small hospitals, trying to educate people there, educate doctors there on RH negative blood typing.
Mm-hmm.
Blood typing to karo.
Correct.
Yeah. So we do a lot of rural marketing initiatives, partnering many different kind of companies. We think of partnering now agrochemicals company. So how do we go rural in this to ensure that nook and corner of this country, women also get the treatment?
Right.
State governments get involved with us. Jingles, we have used jingles, radio jingles.
Uh-huh.
We have created radio jingles which state governments are adopted. They just remove our company name but use the same jingles to
Okay.
promote blood typing.
Right.
Central government has now made a policy that every woman who gets pregnant has to be registered on a portal by the doctor, including their blood typing.
Okay.
It's compulsory now.
Oh.
So we got everybody along. And now it's become again a movement that RH negative women should not suffer. And how much are it? 2 injections? ANC and PNC, that's all. But
Correct.
then creating that focus on trying to save women from consequences
Hmm.
is something that we took up as a cause and did well. Second cause we have taken up is fertility. Hmm.
Right.
If you see, all over the world, population has started to drop.
Right.
I don't know whether you saw the recent study, but that showed that India's population in 2100 would be, if you talk crores, it could be anywhere around 70 crores.
Right.
China population would be around 44 crores
Right.
comparatively to today's population.
Right.
So there is an expectation of population drop everywhere.
I mean, I'm in a country or currently where they are so worried.
Exactly.
I'm in Japan. I mean, Japan has
Yes, exactly.
a huge problem. Infertility is
Yes.
a big, big issue here.
And infertility has been always an issue. Now, how do we deal with it? So how do you create modern treatments for it? How do you create the best of treatments for it?
Right.
So, there also we have gone far ahead and we are doing everything we are trying to research and work everything on recombinants so that natural proteins from urine need not be used.
Hmm.
We can do recombinants. And we are looking at being the first company to have all fertility hormones, or first company in the world, not first company in India. Okay, first company in the world having all fertility hormones in a recombinant form.
Hmm.
And looking forward to that as a dream.
Hmm.
So, how do you create more and more systems to ensure that you really help where the real problems are of the world or of the country? Don't solve problems which can be solved by anybody. Solve problems which nobody can solve,
Right.
or very difficult to solve, or less people want to solve for.
Right.
So, that's how women's health we have taken up as a mission. And I gave you a couple of examples. There are many more, but this is how we are building a company which is dedicated to women's health.
Yeah. And how proud one feels as an Indian to have these products coming from Indian company and having accessibility, which probably, like you very rightly said, that Indian women would have an access to it, and maybe American women wouldn't. What a pride! I'm sure, like everybody who is associated with this cause must be feeling so proud. That's
Obviously.
fantastic. Right. I mean, though you said there's only 8% women who are Rh negative in this country, but even if there is one life saved, there would be so much. Uh, there's so much of pride one would
Absolutely.
have. I mean, what you are doing is phenomenally great. So fantastic, Sanjiv, and I'm sure from your company there would be so many more. And as a woman, I feel very happy and very proud to see the kind of progress that's happening. So, Sanjay, going further, everyone is talking about in our industry is about customer engagement. We have, every representative, tries to get maximum time of a doctor, and very rightfully so. But all he gets to hear is that, oh, I know your brand, and instead of him hearing, tell me more, what he hears is next MR, please, and that really bothers. What do you think companies can do so that we add value? I'm sure you must have answered this question several times, but I'm still asking because you are that visionary and I think you have done a lot of firsts. So, what advice would you have to the young marketers to and the sales professional to do something that engages doctors?
I might sound a little bit more difficult on this, but I do feel that this doctor engagement model that we have on product and brand promotion has run its life.
Mhm.
I think the share of voice model was important when less drugs were available, smaller number of companies were involved,
Mhm.
and therefore there was a need to say that, oh, we have launched this also, we have launched this also, this is a drug available, there are treat more patients and all. There was a time for that, and we all did a great job of doing it. Today, I think India's accessibility has been caused by the pharmaceutical industry more than anything else.
Right.
India's healthcare parameters are improved because of the pharmaceutical industry primarily.
Mhm.
So I think we did all that, and we
Mhm.
should all take pride in it. But no longer a doctor is looking forward to knowing that is this product available, nor is the doctor looking forward to knowing how many brands are there of which company, nor he or she is looking for understanding the molecule because they can easily find out from the net.
Absolutely.
Correct. So these are not the needs of the doctor anymore, but we continue to do the same thing. See, the need is reduced, but we keep doing the same things. It's like this, there is no longer any need for any bullock carts to be there on the road because we can travel by a bus or a car, but we are pushing bullock carts on the road.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's no use. Customer doesn't want it. So if you want to move to share of mind, then do something which can be valued and teach your team to do something that can be valued. And that is something is a difficult transition today. And therefore, customer engagement, uh, the way we think about it, is changing dramatically.
Right.
See, we are a unique industry where we are an influencer industry. So for us, customer and consumer are two different things.
Correct.
There is a customer and there is a consumer. We treat doctor as the customer and we treat patient as the consumer. But patients also have become consumers. In terms of behavior, consumer behavior is now seeping into patients. They
Absolutely.
are saying, I want to be part of the process. How can you work with the doctors to develop mechanism by which you say that how does one involve patients in their own treatments? How do we give more empowerment to patient and say that you're part of the treatment story and you can do these things yourself? There is no need for any unnecessary support for you every month. You can do these three things in 3 months and come back to the doctor. So
Right.
you're taking charge of yourself. How do you create that atmosphere? And once you start doing that, the customer engagement becomes a joint engagement of the patient and the doctor.
Correct.
And that is where we need to move to from a share of mind story. It is not an easy journey, but I think that's the only journey now.
Right.
And we need to do that. And that is where I think companies are failing because they're still not wanting to, they want to run bullock carts on expressways,
Right.
which is not going to happen anymore. So
Right.
we will have to change this paradigm and ensure that share of mind is something that is tackled with, and we get patient more empowered to take part in the treatment process and allow the patient to be a consumer, to do consumer behavior. Allow the patient to have that right. So that's how we need to move.
Right, right. Absolutely. I mean, I also see many times that medical conferences are held where patients come and talk. Like Ashwini Om Prakash, Tina Ashwini Om Prakash, she talks about irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel syndrome, and doctors listen because doctors want to know how does it feel like. And as you rightly said, that our patients are becoming consumers and they are voicing what they want. They know about their conditions sometimes a lot better than anyone else would know. Understanding that, and like you very rightly said, and you also showed it in practice, is that engaging doctors need not be just going and talking about your brand saying that it's available, but together solving patients problem, and they are going to become your friends and your
And patients are
partners.
bold. Patients are bold. They want to have support groups. I
Yeah.
have had done support groups of dialysis patients,
Mhm.
which has worked very well.
Mhm.
I always used to let a dialysis patient counsel a new dialysis patient.
Mhm.
Worked very well instead of doctor counseling. I can tell you in 2009, when we launched India's first cervical cancer vaccine,
Mhm.
we had two women, bold women, coming on stage in front of press and media and doctors, coming and saying that I had cervical cancer. This is the suffering I had. This is the suffering my family had.
Mhm.
Please take the vaccine.
Mhm.
Women coming on stage and talking about it. They were bold, but involving them is important. Have the courage and the vision to involve them.
Right.
TB, so much patient groups helped me. So
Uh-huh.
many patients helped to create the right atmosphere and noise. So, but That is where we need to move. And this, our next brand has to go away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Stop the bullock cart now. We can't really afford to be driving that anymore. Very well said. In fact, I mean, there is so much of learning across there, which every marketer would definitely benefit from. So, moving forward, what are the other trends do you see, Sanjeev? Definitely, patient becoming consumer is one. Doctors not having time for something that the science is there on the screen of their mobile or on the laptop, and every 73 days medical science doubles up. So nobody is going to wait for MR to come and tell something that doctor probably already knows. What are the other things which you in your entire experience you see are drastically changing?
I think what is changing is also the fact that methods of treatment are dramatically changing.
Mhm.
I think there is a more holistic understanding of treatment now.
Okay.
Arthritis is not about taking um, biologic and how to remain healthy,
Mhm.
how to ensure that other parameters are also taken care of along with that. Hmm.
Right.
If you get delivery systems will change. If you have a PFS, the patient will say, I will take it myself.
Right.
Yeah. Prescribe to me and I'll take it myself. Patients trying to say that, look, I'm not a passive participant in any treatment. I'm a full participant in every treatment. We all taking our health seriously and monitoring ourselves.
Right.
Everybody, uses a smartwatch these days.
Absolutely.
And they check how many steps I have done, what is my heart rate today. Everybody does that. It's a great thing. So, learned, proper, keeping yourself healthy, these trends are becoming far more prevalent now.
Right.
Longevity is not the only thing, but quality of life is also important for people. So
Absolutely.
people want to participate in their own health journey.
Right.
Encouraging people to participate in the health journey is important. We had literacy, but we did not have health literacy.
Right.
And we are at a takeoff point of health literacy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we still will have problems with Dr. Google, but that's a different problem to tackle. Yeah. Or I know the other doctor is the WhatsApp groups. Yeah. But those aside, people are interested in their own health and we have to encourage that.
Right.
So I think we are also entering an era where we are saying on one hand, we are solving a problem where until now we used to treat a disease to manage symptoms and manage the after effects to a point where we are saying, I want to cure you of this disease. So at the other end of the spectrum, we are doing this. We are finding curative solutions in R&D.
Right.
And very interesting. The whole biologics revolution is doing that. On the other hand of the spectrum is people trying to be more healthy. People trying to take care of their own health more so that they avoid disease as much as they can or they postpone disease as much as they can. And we need to encourage both.
Hmm.
This is something that is changing dramatically in the marketplace, and companies will have to learn that if they don't understand this change,
Hmm.
they will be yesterday's companies.
Correct.
Ultimately, they will lose out. So companies have to keep these two trends in mind continuously as they go along and encourage both. Encourage R&D to build more curative kind of solutions and encourage people to become more and more healthy so that they don't have to fall in the treatment net. So the third revolution that will happen is I think India is seeing now, world is probably gone ahead in that, far ahead of that, but India also is saying how to pay for treatment.
Mhm.
And that's changing. I can't say that we have solved everything, but look at it this way that if we said 40 to 50 crore Indians were covered by Ayushman Bharat, with 70 plus population adding, it's another 10, 15 crores added. So let's say 50, 60 crores people done there. 6 to 8% of insurance penetration means another 10 crores, so 70 crores. Half the population is now finding its way to having some kind of cover and
Hmm.
payment method if they fall sick or if there is tertiary care required. How do we bring it down to secondary care? How do we bring it down to primary care? How to pay for it is something that we need to start thinking more and more. Yeah, so there are many things happening, and these trends are extremely important to participate in, not just watch. How do we participate is everybody's idea, but I think it's important to look at these trends that are changing.
Wonderfully said. I think these are the three things which are happening around us, and the companies which are going to start working in this direction are the ones who are going to get benefited. And also, these trends are impacting doctors. Like you very rightly said, that patients are becoming more and more assertive. One, because information is available to all. Misinformation, of course, needs to be tackled, but information is there. But very importantly, when patients are asserting themselves, they also want a decision to be taken. They don't want someone else to just direct down some treatment. And pharma companies can also collaborate with doctors, because doctors are still not there. I mean, not it's wrong to generalize, but many doctors are finding this very stressful, having demanding patients. And if some help comes from pharma companies, it would be definitely welcome. Yeah, very well said. So, International Women's Day is round the corner, and you are shaping women's health also in a very different way, and very rightly, as you always derive purpose out of it. I have a question here, which is slightly more broad. That how do women become part of corporate world more? I understand that there are 37% of Indian women in workforce, and which is all across, and there are only 10% women in marketing and sales. How do we see more number of women participating?
See, I think I have been a big champion of this cause of women to be part of treatment. Very, very important for me that we find a way for women to be part of the whole, corporate world. Yeah. And I believe that it gives you a better balance. I can tell you, I have led teams which are only male teams.
Mhm.
Yeah. 8 hour meeting finishes in 3 hours and everybody is out partying, making all wrong decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or otherwise, I've had teams where I had 60% leadership was women
Mm-hmm.
in my team.
Mm-hmm.
And those teams, the discussion is to never end, to go on endlessly, but the quality of decision making was supreme, high quality.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there is something to it. Nah?
Right.
From personal experience, I can say that participation of more women in my teams has led to better decision making. So who am I to even question that? It is proven to me. So I think my team has done something very good. My team here in this company has done something very interesting. Uh, what they have done is that they have created a program called Women Touring,
Mm-hmm.
Women Mentoring in
Mm-hmm.
corporate.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is give a mentor to every woman working in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And that mentor need not be a female, male, or anything. It could be anybody, either a female or a male. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But every woman in professional in the company gets a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And then their journey is tracked. And they have been given advice throughout their, it's not just career advice, it's a lot of advice. How to manage yourself, what are you looking for, what are your dreams, how do you plan your career properly, what do you think about, how do you create vision. So help them, counsel them, help them through their journey to achieve what they want to be.
Right.
It's very important that mentorship is done and make them feel that they are very valued in an organization. And policies have to be accordingly framed. Hmm. For example, our women in the field, they get extra allowance compared to males
Mm-hmm.
because it's more difficult for them to be in the field than the male.
Mm-hmm.
So giving them an extra allowance encourages them to say that we value you more.
Right.
So small things have to be done, big things have to be done. We need to ensure that you create an ecosystem by which women feel safe, protected, at the same time ambition is unleashed. If you do that, more women will talk to other women to join the workforce. And you can't impact the world. You have to start where you can impact. So this is something that is happening around me, and my teams are doing wonderful job of doing all these programs, finding ways in one way or the other to help out. Hmm? And
Yeah.
tell me, I don't think any woman in in my company feels feels any hesitation in asking, saying that, look, I have a problem at home. I need to work from home today.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Nobody fears that discussion
Mm-hmm.
because they know that the first responsibility, how can I help you?
Right.
So creating that atmosphere is important. And look, if we don't do it, who else will do it? So we need to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This gender disparity in pay is something that you should always work on. Always have a look as a CEO. Are we creating any of these kinds of things?
Right.
So small things to watch out for, but do that,
Right.
do that, and slowly you will find workforce changing. Doesn't happen. Then also there are areas where you can actually find that women can get employed more and are better, more productive. For example, in our R&D, we are more happy to employ women because they're more productive, they're more disciplined, and it's a highly employable place for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Right.
One of our biggest R&D part is being headed by now by a woman.
Right. Right,
So
absolutely. I mean, if leadership is committed, I'm sure, and women would find it much safer and safer in every sense to work in corporate. Unfortunately, when such discussions happen, of 90 hours work, etc., they do trouble women because working 90 hours in a week is not easy. I'm not here to pass any judgment. These are, calls every corporate can take, but definitely large number of women stay out of workforce. And if they are given help in terms of working from home or something, definitely that would help. And of course, there are traits which men bring to the table, and there are traits which women bring to the table, and both together make the entire corporate world a lot better in terms of execution, decision making, and everything. And kudos to you, Sanjiv, for taking this part and saying this so clearly that any woman has a personal problem and wants to work from home or otherwise, they will never hesitate. I think a very, very inspiring way of leading your team. So great, Sanjiv. It was fantastic talking to you. Any last minute message to those young marketers and, of course, the seasoned one who would be listening to you? Anything you want to tell them as a last point in this podcast?
I think, I would only say that you don't become a marketer by understanding marketing from classes,
Mm-hmm.
or though that you will learn anyways,
Mm-hmm.
but experience things. Have you sat with patients? Have you sat with their caregivers? Have you spent time outside ICUs? Have you seen the anxiety of doctors and the patients? Have you experienced the fact of talking to 20 patients in the therapy that you're dealing with? Or what is the day-to-day suffering? What is happening through them? Experience all that. Manage to ensure that you understand the realities of disease, and you will turn out to be a better marketer anytime. So there's no other way. It's not, we are not in a business where we can get trained by listening to big people or listening to, or, any other method of learning. Method of learning has to come from people whom we have to work with for to better their life. Probably, read where there is more medical philosophy being written.
Mm-hmm.
Read those things. It will help you. It will help people. So I think, and look, the last thing I would say is that embrace technology in a big way.
Correct.
Embrace technology.
Correct.
Technology is here to stay. It will keep changing. Embrace it. Make it useful to you. Use it to further what you want to do. So be happy that there is technology around.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing AI revolution happening. I'm working in that area and I'm seeing how at minimum cost it can make difference to patients, doctors and everyone around. So I think technology is the way forward. Very well, captured, Sanjay. So thank you so much for coming on this podcast, and I'm really, really thankful to you for sharing those drops of wisdom with us. Because learning marketing in schools is one thing, but you actually have understood it by understanding the real stakeholders, the consumers, the patients for whom we exist, and then creating purpose out of it, and that purpose actually inspires everyone around, and that is how iconic brands are built. So thank you so much, Sanjiv. It's pleasure as always to be talking with you and understanding your journey of building such a great brands of India.
Thank you, Gauri. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Let's keep doing good work.
Thank you. Thank you so much.